Hey, Cully. Right as rain. Here you are. How you doing, buddy? Eddie, welcome to the scope. Welcome. Jose, welcome to the scope. I have recharged my phone. Hey, Australia. Very cool. How is Australia doing these days? That's the dumbest question I've ever asked. How is Australia doing? How come they can't protect in Saudi Arabia? I'm not really sure what you're referring to. Welcome to the scope, guys. What part of Australia are you from? Hot and good. Yeah, that seems pretty consistent. Hot, dangerous, and good. That's all I know about Australia. Is that our thing? Is that I got to tell you, that's like the new funny thing to say about Australia, how dangerous it is. Is that a real thing? Or is that just kind of a dumb stereotype that people are applying to it? Iam's daughter, welcome to the scope, guys. It's not really. Yeah, I wondered that. I did a scope waiting for you. Oh man, I gotta check out Periscope, Cully, and find out if you ever. I'll tell you what, Cully. If you ever put my name in the title of your scope, I'll try to catch it. Yeah, that's what I imagine. Hey, Scotland's in the house. We have Australia. Somebody wants to talk about Saudi Arabia. Oh, I'm sorry, Cully. I'll try to check that out. Next time you do that, I'll try to be a part of that. That's very kind of you to name check me in the title of your scope. So here's the question. Did anybody go to one of the international protests for the Women's Day protest? I guess against Donald Trump. I guess that's the general idea of the protest. But I went to the one here in Minneapolis, or St. Paul, I should say. Did anybody go to any of the international ones? I was wondering what those scenes looked like. You will do another one. Okay, buddy, after when I end this scope, I'm not going to end this scope to join yours, but after I end the scope, I'll try to check yours out. No way. What is no way? So yeah, I'm curious. You got it. Okay, yeah. Sounds good, buddy. So yeah, I'm curious if the person from Scotland, the person from Queensland, did any of you guys go to the international protests? That's what I'm curious. I want to hear from somebody who went to one of those. I want to hear what that was all about. So, Cully, what's on your mind these days? Did you watch the inauguration? Did you enjoy the inauguration? You watched bits on TV? Okay. Yeah. Hell in a Handbasket. I immediately like your handle. Welcome to the scope. That's good. All right, Cully. How have you enjoyed Trump's appointment so far? All right, Cully. I'm going to ask you a question. Who is your favorite 3 appointments that Donald Trump has made thus far? Who are your favorite 3 appointments? And where are you from, Hell in the Handbasket? You're from the U.S. What part of the U.S. are you from? Cali. Fantastic. I have to take a trip out to California. All of my college friends decided to move to the Los Angeles area, and I have yet to visit them. That is my next trip. I'm going to go out to Cali very soon. And my sister is living out there now, too. My sister just took a sweet job in California. She's working for Sheryl Sandberg. Do you know her? Yes, I watched Disappointed Trump's speech, but I support him. Okay, cool. Mad Dog you like? All right. for defense. Yeah, I have an uncle who's a Trump supporter, and he was a Mad Dog fan too. You're hiring? Cool. Next trip to LAX. Yeah, I've heard horror stories about LAX, but what are you gonna do? Here's something I was talking about with a friend of mine. We got into a nice little political discussion earlier today. Heads up, everybody. This is when the part of the Periscope in which I start to criticize Donald Trump. This is when it begins. So if you are a Trump fan, heads up. Here we go. So if you remember during the election when Donald Trump asked John Kasich to be his vice president, Donald Trump told John Kasich that he could be in charge of foreign policy and domestic policy. Now, the astute students that are in my Periscope, you might be asking yourself, well, if John Kasich was in charge of foreign policy and he was in charge of domestic policy, what the hell was Donald Trump going to do as president in that situation? Donald Trump announced that he was in that situation. He was going to make America great again. Okay? Yeah, Cully, I will definitely be hopping into your scope. Okay, so he's basically told John Kasich, you can be in charge of domestic policy. You can be in charge of foreign policy. In what I will do is I will make America great again, which doesn't really mean anything, but what are you going to do about it? Okay, now the reason why I'm bringing this up, now that Donald Trump is nominating these different people to these different cabinet positions, it is my belief, and I don't know if this is true or not, this is what I imagine to be true, but you can certainly call me into question. You can say that maybe I'm wrong to make this assumption, but I do think that this is a fair assumption. I think these cabinet positions are essentially going to be little fiefdoms. I think that they are essentially going to be autonomous. I don't think that they really are going to receive much oversight at all from the Trump administration, because I don't think Donald Trump has many stated opinions when it comes to education. I don't think Donald Trump has many defined positions when it comes to what should happen with the Interior, what should happen with the Commerce Department, what should happen with the Labor Department. So I imagine that these Commerce secretaries are essentially going to act like little fiefdoms. You are wrong, sorry. Okay, why do you think I'm wrong? Send me first. Send you first. Okay. White power. Oh, we got a white power guy here. That's cool. That's cool. All right, so all sorts of people think I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm wrong. Research facts. Okay, that's not an opinion. That has nothing to do with what I just said. I know that's what people like to do. They just sort of like to come in periscopes and say, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know facts. You should research facts. But that's not really the way conversations work. That's not the way dialogue works. Alt fact, right, exactly. Truth is truth. Okay, so this is what I said. I said because I don't think Donald Trump has any pre-registered opinions when it comes to, what the education secretary, I don't think Trump really has very well-defined positions about what he wants to do with education. I imagine the cabinet pick for the education secretary, I imagine that person is pretty much going to operate independent. I think that they are going to basically be able to run their department the way they want to run their department without much interference from Donald Trump. That is what I believe. Now, you are welcome to tell me that you disagree, but simply saying truth is not really a good way to continue that conversation. Common Core sucks. Okay, I did not say anything about Common Core. He may be in a position himself as a manager in a sense. You explained that? Yeah, well, okay, he may be a manager, I suppose, but what does that mean as the President of the United States? I mean, it's not his job to make sure the government is functioning the way a CEO. It's a CEO's job to make sure a business or a company is functioning. So the question really is, what is his role going to be? Hey, from Egan. Hi, Egan. Were you by any chance at the Minnesota protest in St. Paul this past Saturday? That's where I was. Gio's here, Chelsea's here, Christy's here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're a small business owner. Cool. Just popping in. Good to see you, Gio. No, I couldn't make it. I wanted to go. Yeah, it was a cool event. I got to say, I found it to be very inspiring. To me, to be totally honest with you, the protest was sort of the reawakening for me in terms of politics. This is one of the first Periscopes I've done since the election, and I don't think it's a coincidence that I'm doing it the day after I attended that protest. I think that to me was, that moment where you have to make that decision that, to be done feeling sorry for yourself for losing the election, and you have to get back at it. You have to get back fighting for what you believe in, and that's exactly what that protest was for me. It was an inspiring day. I have a bit of a cold today, so I apologize that you guys are going to have to listen to a little bit of my sniffling. You didn't lose the election, America did. Well, that's true, Gio. I agree with that. But the Democrats categorically did lose the election. The world will not end. I agree with that as well, too. The world will not end. And you know what? We made it through George Bush. He was a bitter pill to swallow. We're going to make it through Donald Trump, of course. But the most important thing is people have to get back at it. You have to fight for what you believe in. You want to go live with me on the phone? Maybe. Maybe after this scope call, we can set something like that up. I'm choosing to back our president for the sake of a better America. Negativity gets us nowhere. Well, it's not negativity for negativity's sake. Criticizing a president, criticizing an administration is one of the most patriotic things you can do if you do it in a constructive way. But certainly Donald Trump is putting forth some bold ideas. Now, if you agree with those ideas, by all means, support him. By all means. But this idea that, it's a patriotic duty to support the president, I totally disagree with that. I totally disagree with that. I think one of the most patriotic things you can do is to try to hold your government accountable. To try to ensure that they are actually there's actually some expectation being put in their way. Be a uniter, not a divider. Well, okay, wait a second. Are you guys honestly suggesting that I should be supporting the president simply because I'm an American citizen? Don't tell me you supported Barack Obama. Did you support Barack Obama for 8 years, hell in a handbasket? I'm not even telling you that you should have. I was willing to give Obama a chance. Libs don't seem to be willing to do that. Well, but here's the thing. First of all, this idea that you want to sum up libs already tells me that this is probably not going to head in the right direction in terms of a political conversation. You will never, ever, ever hear me say that conservatives are all somehow can be summed up by single statements. That's just so inaccurate. There are so many different versions of conservatives, just like there are so many different versions of liberals. But the fact of the matter is that Donald Trump has put forth a very, very deliberate agenda in terms of he wants to repeal Obamacare. He wants to renegotiate NAFTA. I mean, he is hitting the ground running in terms of his presidency. Now, for people who support Trump, that's what they want. They want him to enter that White House kicking ass and taking names. Okay? But this idea that like I have to take a wait and see approach when it comes to Donald Trump, that's nonsense. He already has put forth some very bold ideas that I strongly disagree with, which is my prerogative and my right as an American. So this idea that we have to take a wait and see approach when it comes to Donald Trump, that's nonsense. We know what his agenda is. The only question is whether or not he's going to be successful in enacting it or not. America first. There you go. That's what he wants to do. He wants to set up a protectionist economy that, in my opinion, has so much more to do with this symbolic America first mentality than any actual concession that's going to be helping average Americans. That's my opinion. But, you know, this idea like, hey, I gave Obama a chance. Okay, that's fine. That's totally fair. If you want to tell me that you think I should take a wait and see approach when it comes to Trump. But I don't think that that's the case. I think that that's kind of a silly position, to be honest with you. Sorry, Gio, you're saying quite a bit, and I haven't been able to follow some of your comments, so I apologize. I haven't been responding to your comments here. Words, LOL. We did. He did nothing but divide. Okay, that's obviously your position. I'm not expecting you to come into this scope and have so many nice things to say about Obama, but I think this idea that I am supposed to give Donald J. Trump the benefit of the doubt, I think that that's a silly position. I think that's a silly position. Straight Doc is in the house. Of course you don't. No need to continue on if you're so close-minded. Adios. Okay, well, fair enough. I'm glad you came to that realization. Cully, do you mind if someone's screen your pic? He is an amazing talker, that's all. I'll be totally honest with you guys. If you really want to spend your time debating Obama's legacy, that's just not really an interesting way to spend my time in this scope here today. We had 8 years to talk about Obama. Now we're talking about Trump. There was a vote. I don't understand why that can't be accepted. There was a vote. What? I'm sorry, I don't really follow the intention of that comment. I'm not. Tell me a little bit more about what you're talking about. Hey, Gary's in the house. How you doing, Gary? Gary is one of my super fans. He is talking about the "he's not my president" people. Well, you'll never hear me say that he's not my president. He is my president, and for that very reason, you're going to hear me criticize his job performance. That's exactly what I'm going to do. You don't care, you're not a pussy. Yeah, you're a super fan too, Gio. As is Cully. We got a few super fans in the house tonight. Why so many protests, as in what can be achieved by that? Yeah, you're right. Nothing has ever been achieved by protest. There's really no reason to protest. We should all just essentially just stop protesting? I don't know what you're saying. No, it's a show of force. It's to let people know that we reject Donald Trump. We rejected him as a candidate, and we are rejecting his agenda as a president. We are the opposition. Nice to meet you guys. We are the opposition. Again, how did he help to unite? I'm not going to debate Obama. We had 8 years to talk about Obama. That's a silly way to use... It's a silly way to spend your time in Periscope to debate the legacy of Obama while Donald Trump is being inaugurated. That's kind of a weird way to do. You can't. Helena Handbasket, I'm sorry. I'm not following you right now. I'm a super fan too. Oh, cool. Yeah. Helena Handbasket, if you want to retype what you're saying, I would love to get back into that part of the conversation, but I'm not going to debate whether or not Obama was a divider or a uniter. That's not what we're talking about. When you get done, I will start a scope. All right. Sounds good, buddy. Give me facts. What would you like facts about? Hell in a handbasket? That's kind of a silly thing to say when you haven't even necessarily announced a subject that you would like to talk about. Come on, I know there are people out there that want to have a smart political conversation. I retype what I'm saying. All right, Gio, sorry, buddy. I apologize, Gio. You're right to be frustrated. I'm focusing way more on other people than you. I do apologize, Gio. Time to protest was November 8th. Should have marched their spoiled butts off. Yeah, I agree with that. But are you honestly suggesting that, like, it's wrong to protest a political agenda of a president? Like, I don't understand what you're saying, that we shouldn't have protested, that we shouldn't be allowed to protest. I'm not really understanding why people are frustrated at the protest. You're absolutely right. It is a black mark to Donald Trump's inauguration. You could certainly argue that more people showed up to the protest than they did his inauguration. Okay? But that's what happens when you win the general election by winning less than 40% of the vote. That's what happens. People are pissed off. I'm a positive person. I don't believe in you. Well, okay. You're a positive person, but if Hillary Clinton won, in no way, shape, or form would I tell you that you shouldn't protest in a political agenda that you do not support. I might disagree with you in terms of my political opinions and your political opinions, but if Hillary Clinton got elected and you did not support her agenda, I would tell you to go take to the streets and protest. That's what you do. That's what happens. So I'm not really sure what people are arguing. Yeah, you're right. It was, for somebody like Donald Trump, who, let's be totally honest, has a very fragile ego, to have his big day of celebration, the inauguration, to have that black mark, to have back-to-back days where there were almost more people protesting than actually standing at attention of his inauguration. I understand why people are frustrated, but that's the way democracy works. That's the way it works, ladies and gentlemen. He has tiny cocktail sausage fingers. Yeah, well, that's the other thing. Maybe somebody should tell Donald Trump that he shouldn't take the bait every single time. They buses them in. Okay. 95% of cops, firemen, military, FBI, DEA, Border Patrol, CIA support Trump. Okay, well, that is invented. That is an invented statistic. But you're right. If you want to tell me that more people that are in authority, such as police and authority figures, support Trump, I'd say that probably makes more sense. White men support Trump. That's a fact. That's a fact. And we can talk about that. We can talk about why that is. But again, that's a very different conversation than coming in and saying, well, first of all, 95%, you made that up. You did. You made it up. Okay? 25 million women voted for Trump. Less than 1 million protested. You're right. I don't understand what is being argued here. Somebody tell me what is being argued here. Laughing my ass off. You lives. Pull the race car. Is that unfair to talk about the fact that white men support Trump and that's not something we're supposed to talk about? You don't think that influences their political opinions? Agreed. Sorry, they brought them in by the bus. They brought them in by the bus for what? What are we talking about here, guys? What are we talking about? Funny how liberals bully Trump. Oh my God. I'm trying so hard. I am trying so hard, you guys, but there is so much just nonsense happening in my scope right now. All right, let's break this down. First of all, anybody out there who is summing up liberals in single statements, that is a dumb position. You will never hear me say, all conservatives are like this. You will almost never hear me say, all Trump supporters are like this. Okay? For anybody who wants to say, oh, you liberals are like this, you liberals are like that. That is not an intelligent position. Okay? There are many different kinds of liberals. There are moderate liberals. There are extreme liberals. There are liberal Republicans. There are conservative Democrats. There's a lot of different kind of political opinions out there, okay? 2, somebody just said that liberals are bullying Trump, and yet we are concerned about bullying in school, okay? So now apparently saying mean things to Donald Trump is bullying him. It's not protesting. It's not democracy. It's not any of these things. It's now bullying Trump. I'm having a hard time following you guys here. And here's the deal, guys. Here's the deal. And I apologize. I don't mean to sound dismissive. I don't mean to be sarcastic. I'm trying not to be an asshole. I'm really trying not to be an asshole. Okay? But I am searching for the pocket of Trump supporters from which I can learn something from them, okay? Trump supporters are intelligent people. Trump supporters have smart opinions, okay? Not all of them, not all of the opinions, and not all of the Trump supporters. But they exist out there. So I want to talk to those people. And I want to learn from them. And I want to trade ideas with them. Okay? I am searching for those opinions. I am searching for those smart Trump opinions. Okay? Because I want this to be a political discussion. This is not an anti-Trump scope. You don't have to be an anti-Trump person to be in this scope. Okay? Anybody with any opinion can share it in this scope. You are welcome. Okay? How you conduct yourself in this scope, yeah, there's a possibility that I could ask you to leave if you end up being just a pure asshole, okay? But that doesn't mean that only Democrats can be here. Like, I want to hear people with different opinions than me, okay? But I'm searching for that intelligent conversation. And when somebody comes into my scope and says, liberals are bullying Trump, but they care about school bullying, okay, that's not it. I'm sorry. I'm going to bypass that argument, and I'm going to keep looking. I'm going to keep looking for a Trump argument that actually gives me pause. What was your question? Depends how far back you want to go. Depends how far back you want to go. There's been a few different subjects we've been tapping into. Let me find out what you guys want to talk about. I do agree. Not 100% of liberals have the same views and opinions, but majority with their voice. Yeah, and that's fair. That's fair. If I can totally understand somebody who thinks, that in general there is a pretty consistent theme that runs through most liberals. That's fair. But anytime somebody comes into my scope and they start off by saying, you liberals are all like this, I'm just like, wow, I'm probably not going to have a very good discussion with this person. Because they already are summing up millions and millions and millions of people with just like a shoe hand gesture, you liberals. That, to me, if somebody starts off a conversation saying, you conservatives or you liberals, that is not somebody who is actually looking for a dialogue. That is somebody who thinks that they already have the answers and they are just, trying to make themselves feel better about themselves by lashing out at those who disagree with them. Hey, Mexico's going to pay for the wall. Okay, that's your belief. I think that that's a silly belief, but that's where we disagree. You must be very good at maths if you keep summing up things. I am not that good at math. I am not. We will do business with lots of folks if we make a fair deal. I mean, look. I think, here's what I'll tell you. I think it is pretty naive to assume that the only reason why we have some international trade struggles is simply because we haven't had somebody like Donald Trump in the executive office. I think that is an incredibly naive position. Maybe I will be proved wrong. Maybe Donald Trump will just magically renegotiate a better NAFTA. It could happen. And if that happens, we're going to have a different discussion. But here's the problem. If that doesn't happen, what I have seen from the Donald Trump camp is that they are not going to come in here and acknowledge, hey, you're right. Maybe international trade was a little bit more complicated than just putting somebody like Donald Trump in as president. Because already, I mean, here's what I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen. I did an earlier scope where we spent a lot of time talking about how many people attended Donald Trump's inauguration. And there were a lot of Donald Trump supporters that basically were saying, why are we even talking about this? Who cares how many people attended the inauguration? Okay? And I agree. That's a dumb subject. That's a dumb subject. That's a dumb thing for Sean Spicer and for Donald Trump to care so much about. Okay? But the reason why we are talking about it is if you are willing to completely abandon the truth when it comes to something as inconsequential as how many people attended your inauguration, there is some serious question of what else you are going to be willing to lie about going forward. And I think the real question is, here is the real question. If you consider yourself a devotee to the truth, somebody who really believes in the truth and is willing to fight for the truth, okay, then something like saying that Donald Trump had more people at his inauguration than any other previous inauguration, and that turns out to be false, that should bother you. That should really, really bother you. And if that doesn't bother you, if you're willing to just brush that off your shoulders, just, oh, who cares, whatever. Donald Trump lied about that, or maybe he didn't lie about that. I don't care. Okay. Then what happens is I call into question whether or not you are going to be willing to acknowledge certain truths going forward. For instance, Donald Trump has announced that he's going to renegotiate NAFTA. Now, if he renegotiates NAFTA and it turns and he renegotiates it in a way that becomes way more beneficial for the United States of America, I would like to believe that I am an intelligent enough person and I am somebody who is devoted enough to the truth that I can acknowledge and admit if I'm wrong. Okay? And I'm going to sit here and tell you, I'm going to try to stick to my guns there. If Donald Trump renegotiates NAFTA and he really does get a much better deal for the United States of America, I'm going to come on this scope and I'm going to have to say to you guys, hey, looks like I was wrong. Looks like we really did have to renegotiate NAFTA. That was a good move. Okay? The question is, do you think that you, as a Trump supporter, are my compliment in that regard? Do you think that you are objective enough and independent enough and somebody who is devoted enough to the truth that you would be willing to come in here and acknowledge the opposite if the opposite turns out to be true? If Trump doesn't renegotiate a better NAFTA deal, would you be willing to come into this scope and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I was a little bit naive about how U.S. trade deals are formulated. Maybe I was a little too optimistic about Donald Trump renegotiating NAFTA. Okay? Those are the people I am looking for. I am looking for those people. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of liberals who can't pull it off on their side. There's a lot of Democrats that they're lost. They're not looking for the truth. They're looking for a better liberal reality. And then there are a lot of Trump supporters that certainly fulfill their end of the bargain. And I'm asking you, if I'm nauseating, you should really leave the scope. Like, there's absolutely no reason why you should be in here. Okay? I am asking you, do you think that you are somebody who is actually committed to truth and actually committed to trying to be an objective observer and an objective reporter of what is happening in terms of political news? If you think that that is you, then I would certainly invite you to come back in here. Keep coming back in here. Okay? Otherwise, if you're not, if you're somebody who, as this person just said, finds me to be nauseating, what a weird way to spend your Sunday night. I don't know why you're doing this. I don't know why you're doing this. Okay, let's get back to the comments. Thank you for listening to my little little soapbox there for a little bit. Triggered in snowflake is not a political discussion. Do you think America should pull out of the UN? No. Pull out of the UN? No. Barry Cerruto, laughing my ass off. He is a troll. That is why. Rant. Yeah, it was a little bit of a rant. I'm committed to the truth. But you are very biased. I have opinions. I certainly have opinions. I'm not going to tell you I don't. What do you think about the ACA being repealed? Well, I think it's going to be a tricky thing to repeal. It really depends. I mean, that's a good question. Obamacare is not working as was hoped. And so for conservatives to say that they want to repeal Obamacare, I think that that's a very fair position. And I think, they always say elections have consequences. And if there was a consequence of this last election, I think that they earned the right to revamp Obamacare. But the real question is are they going to be able to put together the political capital to replace it with something better? That is a much different, that is a much more difficult conversation. Because simply getting rid of Obamacare, that fixes nothing. That fixes absolutely nothing. And the tricky thing is that Obamacare is ultimately a way to, it is a funding mechanism of the things that even Trump supporters say they like about Obamacare. The most obvious one being not denying people for insurance based off of pre-existing conditions. Ultimately, Obamacare is a complex funding mechanism for things like that. Okay? So the real question is, are you going to be able to find a new way to fund certain provisions like that? If no, then I think really you're much more interested in taking a shot at Obama's legacy than you are at actually improving the insurance industry here in America. I mean, I'll ask you, for people who want Obamacare repealed, do you want a funding mechanism to be put in its place that pays for things like allowing people with pre-existing conditions to purchase insurance? That's going to be very difficult to get the political capital to do that because it's going to require certain things that are very unpopular with certain conservative politicians. So I'll just say that, and I'll see what you guys have to say. Trump said he would improve Obamacare. Sorry, I got a little bug in my throat here. Yeah, he did. We don't know what that's going to look like. I have to see the details before I can actually buy into that idea. Improve by replacing. Yeah, I mean, I need to see the details. I need to know what they actually want to replace it with. All right. Repeal, repair, and fix it. Free market at its best. Many who voted for Trump are heavily dependent on the ACA. Right. I mean, here's what I can tell you. The insurance industry today is way better than it was before the ACA. There are some serious problems, and Obamacare is not working the way that it was intended to work. And there are insurance companies that are essentially taking the hit for it. And I don't think that that's acceptable. I think we have to figure out a way for Obamacare to work naturally without being propped up by subsidies and things like that. But the fact of the matter is, if you want to look at the way healthcare was in the 90s and in the 2000s, it was a nightmare. It maybe not for you. Maybe not for you. Maybe you got great insurance through your employer. But the general insurance landscape was a mess. And so you can't just tell me that you want to repeal Obamacare without explaining how you're going to patch up the system in a way that doesn't return us to a system that allows people to be denied health insurance because of a pre-existing condition. You have to explain what you intend to do to fix that. Otherwise, you're not going to get me to go along with your plan. Let's see. No socialism. Okay. Agreed. It's wealth distribution, redistribution. What is wealth distribution? How did we get on socialism? It's not my job to pay for illegals. Okay. Once again, nobody wants to talk about anything in particular with Obamacare. Look, I'm not trying to be a jerk. But if you guys want to talk about Obamacare, if you want to talk about the ACA, we can talk about the ACA. But these sort of ad hominem arguments about socialism and paying for illegals, to me, it just, when I see people type that kind of stuff in, all I pick up from that is, oh, this person doesn't really understand the ACA. Oh, this person doesn't really understand health insurance and the debate surrounding health insurance. They just know their hyper-partisan attacks. Oh, socialism and I pay for illegals health care, and just, all right, I'm sorry. I don't really have any faith that we're going to have a good conversation, because I don't really think that certain people really understand the parameters of the debate. What do you know? Nothing, but you're in my scope. So you should start your own scope if you don't think I know anything. Insurance is a weird idea. Basically, it's a gamble business. Why would you want to insure? Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying about insurance being a strange industry. The ACA is a bad deal, not partisan. It's simply bad for America. That's a fair position. I mean, I said it here many times, and I'm going to say it again. Anybody who wants to come in here and say that Obamacare is not working, I will even agree with you. But the question is why is it not working, and what do you plan to replace it with? That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, I'm going to wait to see what Trump actually does before I start criticizing any suggestions that are put out there. Insurance paid by some to others is fascism. All right. Okay. I want to know what you're protesting about. You want to know what I'm protesting about? You want to know what I am? Okay, so for instance, I went to the protest yesterday. Do you want to know what the reason why I went to that particular protest? Is that what you are asking? I already know Trump will be a disaster. I think he will be a disaster. I don't know he will be a disaster. Trump thinks inauguration attendance is important. Yeah, that was ridiculous. Watch my scope, Minnesota. Yeah, I will. Cully, I'm going to go to your scope when I end this scope. Problem seems to be the cost of medical procedures and prescriptions. See, here's a guy that actually wants to have an intelligent conversation about insurance. It requires some talk about insurance and the way insurance is supposed to work and the way our medical advances have gone down in the last 15 years, but nobody wants to have that conversation. It's too boring, and I understand why people don't want to have that conversation. We should be able to afford medical stuff out of pocket. I agree. See, this guy wants to have an intelligent conversation about insurance. I apologize, I'm not seeing your posts. All right, I am locked in. I am looking for your comments here. I apologize, I missed some of your earlier ones. Why do we have to replace it? Answer question. Why not let the market run its course? Because for 30 years, the market did a horrible job when it came to health insurance. In the 90s, we had one of the most dysfunctional systems in the world. The market did a horrible job, because the fact of the matter is that medical insurance is a necessity. It is not something that only the wealthy can and should afford. It is a fundamental, important sign of a successful country, a successful society. And so the market fucked up. The market didn't do its job for 30 years. No, sir, people can take care of themselves. It's not a right. Oh, okay. People can take care of themselves. That is your solution. That is your solution. People can take care of themselves. Got it. Trump's repeal will leave thousands with pre-existing. Yes, that's what we're talking about. This is where you're wrong. I owe nobody anything. Okay. I don't respect that position, sir. I don't think that this is a very intelligent conversation about insurance when your point is people can take care of themselves. That's not an argument. That is a pretty dumb statement, if you want my opinion. We already have Medicaid and Medicare already. Okay, yeah, let the states solve it. That's worked so well for the last 30 years. Nobody had any problems with our insurance industry. See, here's the problem. This is what people get pissed off, okay? If you are wealthy in the United States of America, I am not surprised that you don't have any criticisms, you don't have any problems. You are just fine and dandy with letting the market run healthcare in the United States of America. That does not surprise me. Okay? I will go ahead and let you know something. I don't like to talk about myself. I don't like to talk about my own situation, but I got pretty damn good health insurance. Okay? My criticisms of the healthcare industry don't really have anything to do with how I am treated. Okay? That's the way it works here in the United States of America. If you have a lot of money, you don't have criticisms of insurance, the insurance industry. Okay? But that's not what we're talking about. And this is the big problem, ladies and gentlemen. Conservatives for a long time were pigeonholed as the party of selfishness. And I am not saying that conservatives are selfish. I'm not saying that Republicans are selfish. Okay? But when you come in here and you tell me that the insurance industry should be run by the insurance industry, by the insurance companies, because that worked out so well in the 80s, that worked out so well in the 90s, that worked out so well in the 2000s, that to me tells me that you have never really even had a look at the insurance industry and how it actually is interacted with by lots and lots of people. That to me tells me that it worked out for you. That to me tells me that you have good insurance. Because for the last 20 years, healthcare in the United States of America has been a dysfunctional mess. So when somebody comes in here and tells me, hey man, take care of yourself. Let Medicaid and Medicare solve all of our problems. That, to me, is a classic example of a conservative who doesn't really have any interest in solving any problems that aren't personally affecting them, personally and infecting them personally. That's the dumbest sentence I've ever said in my life. Sorry. Personally affecting them personally. Okay? I am not going to sit here and say that conservatives are selfish. But I'm going to say that a lot of arguments that I am hearing about healthcare here in this scope are hella selfish. That is not because you are Republican. That is not because you are conservative. But I am seeing it here tonight. It's hard to convince people why they should care about others' wellness. Yeah, I agree. Anybody who wants to tell me that the market has done a great job when it comes to health insurance, you're nuts. And you so clearly have good health insurance yourself, and you have no idea what it is like for other people out there. Yeah, you choose to have insurance. Right. It is your choice. It is your choice to have insurance. And everybody has to make that choice. Do you want health insurance or do you not want health insurance? It's no different than having renter's insurance. It's no different than choosing to drive a car or choose to ride a bus. That is bullshit. To tell me that buying health insurance is just like buying renter's insurance. You choose or you choose not. No. Okay? Health insurance is a right. Don't give me that nonsense. Guess what happens if you get sick and you collapse in a restaurant? They take you to a hospital. They put you in an ambulance and they take you to a hospital. This idea that like, hey, it's a choice. It's a choice to buy health insurance. No, it's not. That is, I'm sorry. I do not respect that opinion. I'm healthy and somewhat well off, but the health of citizens is all of our problems. Totally. That's what it means to be a citizen. I checked the Bill of Rights. Health insurance is not there. Sorry, bud. Okay, so are you making an argument in front of the Supreme Court? Or are you making a political argument to me right here and now? I am not arguing that health insurance is on the Bill of Rights. But are you honestly telling me that, like, hey, some people can afford health insurance and some people are just fucked? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? Then let private citizens donate and help organizations that help. Oh, okay. So you want to shift to a system in which people just have to hope that people like you are going to donate money to a particular organization that helps them out. That's what you want to do. You want to shift that. You want to shift it to charity. Do you want to shift it to charity? I mean, I'm really trying to understand what you're saying here. I really am. But this whole, hey man, I can afford health insurance because I'm awesome, that's not a policy argument. It's tough. I got to be honest with you. There is a lot of blindness here. I mean, there's some crazy arguments that are flying around here. It all comes down to, I don't want to pay for someone else's what happened to community. I agree. I'm free to help someone you want. Well, yes, but your argument... Okay, you know what? I'm spending way too much time talking to a goddamn egg. Let's hear what other people have to say. I mean, here's the thing. I honestly am doing you guys a service by ignoring some of these people because, like I said, there are many different versions of conservatism and there's many different versions of Trump supporters. And it is almost doing you guys a disservice by focusing on the people that actually are demonstrating, in my opinion, some selfish asshole positions, because I know that that's not analogous with conservatism. Conservatism is not selfish, but I am seeing selfish arguments. And you know what? I just have to detach myself from it. Like some of you just, I don't know, man. I hope you don't consider yourself Christians. That's all I'm going to say. He's a socialist. What do you expect? Oh, I'm a socialist? What is a socialist? You tell me what a socialist is. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. It's kind of hilarious how certain morons are. I mean, look, this is going to be me being an asshole for just 2 seconds, okay? 2 seconds I'm going to be an asshole. Dumb people are the most certain people out there. Can we agree on that? If you're a dumb liberal, or if you're a dumb conservative, or if you're a dumb Obama supporter, or a dumb Trump supporter, it is always the dumb people that are the most certain. They don't have any doubts. They don't think they know, right? And so that's what you see. You see these people who hop into these periscopes all the time, that just start saying, they like, oh, I have facts and you don't have facts. And they're so certain. They're so certain of themselves. And that's what I have to do. I have to stop debating with these people who are, here's the mean comment, they're dumb. They just are. They're not making good arguments. They're not making intelligent arguments. But because they're certain and everybody else is kind of like, well, this is what I think. No, because they're the ones that come on and say, this isn't what I think, this is what I know. I choose to engage them. And that's not fair to you people. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to engage with somebody just because they say the dumb thing that, quite frankly, is much easier for me to dismantle. I mean, this is what happens all the time when it comes to Twitter, when it comes to Periscope. You find the worst example of a Trump supporter and you choose to debate that person because it's easier. It's much more difficult to debate a more reasonable Trump supporter or a more reasonable conservative. It's much more difficult to debate a more reasonable liberal. So I'm going to seek out those people. It's kind of silly that I tend to focus on just, let's be honest, the weaklings out there. All right. Here we go. Classic conservative argument of shouting, calming, and using freedom. Yes, I totally agree. Socialist is one of those words where as soon as I see, I'm like, oh, this person doesn't want to have a conversation. And most of the time it's because they can't have a conversation. Socialism is one of those words that almost never has anything to do with what you're talking about. It's just, they use it as just like just a random insult. And when they do, it's one of those words where you're just like, okay, I thought maybe I could get somewhere in a conversation with you. Turns out, nope, no, I cannot. Soros. Yes, I like this person. Socialist or Soros. That is 100% true. Cully, don't worry, buddy. I haven't forgotten about you. I will follow you here soon. Oh, yeah, and how about the Clintons using Russia? What do you mean? The fact that Russia is responsible for the Podesta and DNC email hacks? I don't understand why that's... What's wrong with that? I mean, it's my view. You choose to come in my Periscope and complain about the view? Don't be in the Periscope. What is wrong with some of these people? Preventative services are not offered in the ER. Oh my God. Mr. 27 guy, I apologize. You are hanging on and still trying to talk about insurance. And I have completely gone off the rails and started just yelling at people. I apologize that you want to have a constructive policy argument, or a conversation, I should say. The behavior of the protesters was just a notch. Were you... Which protesters? First of all, you're talking about millions of people worldwide. Are you talking about international protesters? Are you talking about Minnesota protesters? Who are you talking about? Because the protest that happened here in Minnesota was incredibly well behaved. It was inspiring, and it was a great coming together of people that are passionate about political subjects. But if you want to compare them to gorillas throwing poop, surprise, surprise, we're probably not going to have a good conversation with each other. Again, there are certain people that can handle political dialogue and certain people that are going to get into a fight 5 seconds talking to somebody who disagrees with them. But I like this guy fights. I like this guy. Fights are healthy. Yeah, I agree. Fights are healthy. It's how you conduct yourself in a fight that matters. All right, Cully, you wanna start a scope, buddy? You ready, buddy? Sorry, Becky. You're absolutely right. I missed so many of your comments. That is, Becky, you have a legitimate gripe. What can I say? I'm sorry. I missed a ton of what you had to say. I apologize. Cully, you want to start a scope, buddy? But that's a nice view. Where are you from, news nerd? What are you guys talking about my view for? Cancer screenings aren't offered. Do you have Twitter to discuss? Yeah, at Liberal Politico. You can certainly send me some information. We can start it there. I am a grown, well-educated woman, not a child. Who called you a child? Did I call you a child? Max Headroom. I know Max Headroom. Becky, did I call you a child? I didn't. Okay, good. Or Beck. Sorry. I also alleged that you're Becky, which you're not. Cully, I'm asking you, buddy, are you ready to start your scope? Liberal Politico, that's a pretty descriptive name. Yeah. All right, buddy, I will join your scope. I'm going to end this. And I'm going to join Cully's scope. Did you want me to call in to you, Cully? But you want a conversation. I offered you conversation you never seen. Yeah, I know. I did not manage the discussion as well as I could have, Beck. You're absolutely right about that. Yeah, that is the Hennepin Avenue Bridge. Yeah, good call. Good call. Cully, did you want me to call in? I do want a conversation, just not with you, sir. You're right. I do not want a conversation with Purple Egg. I gave it a shot. I took a chance, and it did not yield fruit. It didn't yield fruit. Cully, did you want me to call into your scope? What do you think about everything? Oh, man. Let's start with aardvarks. Aardvarks, they're pretty sweet. Let's move on to antelope. Antelopes are great. Answer me, Butch. The Haitian specials. LOL. You didn't discuss anything. Wow. I'm really surprised that I didn't win you over by declaring that you are not somebody that I want to have a conversation with. I'm really surprised that you still stand in opposition to so much of what I was saying. All right, Cully, I'm going to join your scope, buddy. I'm ending this scope. Bye-bye.